to yet another edition of the Captains. Joining me in this edition is the 2007 captains, Hasan from the Somerset Cricket Club and Lionel Cann from the St. George's Cricket Club. Well, gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for joining me. 2007, Lionel as cup holders, going back to Somerset. What was the intent of the team, and you know, just how you plan to get through a tough match?
The planning was always good. We had won 2 years in a row. We had Somerset had the trophy from 2000 to 2005, and we had won it back at home. And then we went up to Somerset 2006, and we were victorious again. So, you know, we basically had a team that was set. Charlie and Clay was still playing, OJ, Del1. So we had a pretty strong team. Our thing was, could we probably become the first team since 81, 82 to actually get close to a three-peat. So that hadn't been done since the 70s. So we had planned, and we knew that Somerset was constantly changing the team. Obviously, when you don't have the trophy, you have to, make certain changes. So we were planning, hoping to see if we can probably get a three-peat, but we knew it wouldn't be easy. Yeah. So, like I said, Randall, we were under Randall, and you know how regime Randall is. Randall is very strict, and so, the players were set and ready for the match.
Hasan, your first time as captain up Somerset. First of all, tell us how that came about, because Gennaro was the captain the year before, and he kind of relinquished the helm. So how did it all come about for you to become the captain of Somerset for the 2007 year?
Like you said, I guess Gennaro had relinquished the captaincy. So they had come to me to ask me if I wanted to be captain. I had been vice captain for several years prior to that under different captains. So, I had been vice captain. So I guess it was the logical choice to ask me to captain the side that year. And basically, I accepted the captaincy, and, we went under, as Lionel said, those guys, they had a very settled team. And I remember that year we did have a few Colts in the team that year. So it's true, when you don't have the cup, lots of times you will be trying to chop and change and try and, pick the best team that you think is going to wrestle the cup away from St. George's.
Hasan, so you're leading this team. You've got a few Colts in there. What were you hoping to accomplish? Were you just making sure that it wasn't going to be a three-peat, or the intent obviously is to always win it, but how realistic were you going into the match?
We thought we could win it, most definitely. And I mean, it would have been interesting, but it rained. It rained a lot, so we couldn't really get in a full match. But although we had a few Colts, we still had some veterans in there, and we felt that we had a team that could win the cup. So we definitely went in there looking to win. Unfortunately, we don't know what would have happened, if it was two good days, but we definitely went in with the attitude of winning the cup back. And we had the players that we had a few victories under the belt as well. We won in 96, and then, like Lionel said, we had the cup for a few years up until 2005. So, the players were used to winning. It was just the Colts who hadn't won. So we had a winning mentality, a winning attitude, and, we felt that we were going in there definitely looking to win the cup back.
Lionel, at that time, St. George's was actually starting to bring in some new blood, some youngsters and all that. But did you see kind of the shift as St. George's was starting to having to look at younger players to come into the team?
Yeah. So at that time, we knew that Clay and Charlie was on their way out. he has, 2 or 3 years left. The younger players were already set in the team. Like I said, we had OJ Delwan, Young for Cray, coming to the team, George O'Brien, Stephen Kelly. So we had already made the shift, to replace those guys. The problem always becomes is how many years experience you get when it gets tough. But we knew we were going to be all right if we get in a situation. Clay and Charlie and myself, we had like 50 years between us experience at that time. And like Hasan said, with the rain coming and stuff like that, it was not really going to be a whole match. So it was never a difficulty. It was just a day where we saw OJ bat well, scored, looking for him to get his first 100. Unfortunately, he didn't get it. He got 94 and then got out.
Hasan, obviously, you want to have you want to try and do things in small areas and try to pick down St. George's to try and win it, because obviously as challenges, you have to take all sorts of chances. In selecting your team, what were you looking for to ensure that you gave yourself the best chance over the 2 days to try and wrestle the cup?
We were looking for guys who could make some quick runs. We had a few players that could make quick runs. I knew that from what I can remember, I know we had Dean Stevens. I believe he was a coach that year, and I think Dak Brinkman might have been a coach. My memory's a little foggy, but I think that Dean and Dak were coaches. We had Malachi, and then, like I said, we had the veterans that had been there prior. Jacoby was also in there. Those were guys that could make quick runs. We obviously needed guys that could build. So you got to build them out twice. Like I always say, a lot of people look at teams betting, but when you're the challengers, you have to build St. George's out twice. You can't really bank on, teams declaring. You can't look at that and hope that a team's going to declare. You need to get 20 wickets. So we were looking at an all-round team. Like I said, we had Malachi, we had Dean Stevens, an all-rounder, Dak Brinkman, an all-rounder, plus the guys that were already in there, the veterans of the team from past. Jacoby as an all-rounder, and the other regular guys who would be in the team to make runs and build. But I felt that we had a good all-round team. Dean Stevens was making a lot of runs that year. He was still burning, and he was making quick runs. And we know that you need to be able to, because cup match it's not long. It may seem long to people, but when you're looking at getting in 2 innings. You need to have guys that in certain circumstances can make quick runs. But like I said, you also need to be able to build the opposition out twice if you want to win. So we were definitely looking at trying to have a balanced all-round team. And I felt that we picked the best team that we could. Things didn't work out as far as the weather's concerned. So it could have been either way. I mean, because we only got in 1 innings. So, the game could have been either way. So at the end of the day, it was a good experience. The players, especially the coach, they had a good experience. And, it didn't work out where it was a result, but, it goes like that sometimes.
Lionel, what would you say would have been one of the biggest challenges going into that 2007 match for you as a captain?
We didn't have no real major concerns. Like I said, we had a veteran team. We had the best youth players that were around. You know what I mean? We were solid all the way through. I was an experienced captain at that time. We were at home. History was with us that we hadn't lost at home in over 20 years. So, I mean, I didn't really have any concerns. The training was really good. And back then, you have to remember, back then in 2007, we had 3-4 trials. It's different from today where you don't know where players are really at. Clubs have 1 trial and that's it, or they're not playing enough cricket. back then we were still playing a lot of cricket. You know, that was the year like World Cup year, so everybody wanted to try to make World Cup team. All the players were best, up to the best of standards and fitness and everything. So those were the best years. 2005 to 2010, all the cricketers were at their peak. So I didn't really have any sort of concerns. It's just a matter of showing up on the day and making sure that the players were comfortable and be able to execute their duties.
Hasan, as a bowler, how do you measure when it is time for you to come on the ball or come off the ball to ensure that the team is positioned right when as the game's going on?
Well, it just depends on the circumstances. Normally you start with two faster bowlers. That's just in general. I know things have changed now a bit where sometimes you might open with a spinner and things of that nature, but we just look at the circumstances. So every day is different, every game is different, but you know who your bowlers are. You know the bowlers that you want to bowl. You know the bowlers that you feel is going to do the job for you. And what you do is, as the game progresses, you kind of look, it might be a bowler. And you got to remember also that you're playing against players that we see year in and year out. And like Lionel said, he had veteran players. We have veteran players where, we're playing against these guys, not only in cup match, we play against them in the league, we play against them in county. So certain players, have certain tendencies or certain bowlers that may give them trouble, but for the most part, you have your strategy. You have bowlers that you have at your disposal, and you just make a judgment call to say, okay, well, these guys don't seem like they're being troubled by the fast bowler, so let's bring on a change. You might bring on a medium, you might bring on Gennaro, you might go, to spin. It's all just you have a feel for the situation, and then you make a decision based on that. As far as coming off the ball, if somebody's on top of you, hitting you for, a lot of boundaries, sometimes they have the measure of you, so you may come off. You could always come back on later. So usually if a bowler is not penetrating enough, he may not be getting hit, but he's not getting wickets, you might have to say, okay, well, look, let's bring you off and try to bring somebody else on, because the name of the game when you don't have the cup is getting wickets. So it's two different mentalities, one when you have the cup and one when you don't have the cup. So, you may chop and change a bit more when you don't have the cup. A bowler might be bowling well, but it's not getting a breakthrough. So you may have to still take him off, bring somebody else on because, you need to get wickets.
I want to ask you, Hasan, how did you pick Somerset?
Well, I picked Somerset because when I was starting to play cricket and I was getting and I was going cup match, and I was, Arnold Manders was my gym teacher at Berkeley, and I was, that's probably one of the major reasons I ended up going to Islandstats. But St. George's used to have a lot of the league players, and at the end of the day, they had a very good league team. So I guess you can't fault them for playing the league players. But guys like Arnold and other top players, I used to watch, and then, they would get dropped when they're really having a good season and things of that nature. So I kind of, I wanted Somerset to win when I was, like a teenager and watching cup match. So I just ended up, supporting Somerset.
Lionel, when you look back at your years of playing cup match, your first one, what were those moments like just prior to your first ever cup match? Not as captain, but as a player.
The moments was great, right? So for me, coming up there, and everybody played cricket and football, so I was always groomed. I consider myself very fortunate being young, especially being from St. David's. The pitchers and all of them pushing me and wanting me to excel and be the next best thing. So I never had no problems with that. I mean, I was rooting for it. So it was just a matter of me having success when I was younger in Connie Cup, obviously. When we was 14, we won it back. And going through the whole system, like Hasan said, like you had Arnold, Clevey, Noel. These guys were like the best all-rounders in Bermuda. It was just a matter of me waiting my time. And then by the time it came time leading up to cup match, I was a well-seasoned cricketer, you know what I mean? I was one of the top all-rounders in Bermuda and proving myself. But I just had to wait. And then when the time was right for me where I was going to either play for Somerset or St. George's was the ones that made sure that, they were going to get me. And so, yeah, for me, it was a transition and I was always ready. So by the time I got ready for cup match, I had played Eastern Connie for 10 years. So I was used to the big crowds. I represented Bermuda at an early age and in the national team. So, yeah, but it's nothing like that one big day when you get there and you see the crowd is amazing and it's wonderful. You're like, it's my turn. So I've always looked forward to that challenge. And I just couldn't wait for the day. So, yeah.
Hasan, what would you say you were more nervous about? Your first ever cup match or the captaincy that year, 2007?
Yeah, my first cup match, definitely. By the time 2007 came around, I started in 93. So I think I played, that was like my 14th cup match. So I wasn't really nervous about that. But, when I first came into the game, I was nervous. I remember I went out to bat. I think I got a dock, like a one-ball dock. I think Clarky Trott got me LBW. So, going out there was a lot of nerves, big crowd, first time playing cup match. But, my experience was a little different from Lionel because Lionel came in when St. George's were on top. They hadn't lost to Somerset for years. I think when I came in 94, I started in 94. When we came in, I think we hadn't won the cup for like 11, 12 years or something like that when I first started playing. So, you would, before I was playing, as I said, I would go watch, and every year somebody, like Lionel said, they had so many all-rounders, somebody would save them. Somerset would have them in trouble. I remember one year Alan Douglas scored like a 70 up Somerset and saved them. It's always something what somebody would say because they had the Noels, the Charles, the Clevis, Arnold. They had so many weapons, Clay, Vandal, that somebody would inevitably, kind of come to the rescue. So I came with the backdrop of, not having won the cup for X amount of years and coming in. And I think that, that's probably what happens where you have a side that's kind of saddled. And then like when the younger guys come up, they may end up saying, well, I can't get in that team, so I'm going to go to the other team. And then over years, they'll build up some of the best young players. And then, it would change hands. I just think that's the natural way that it goes. Or, if a team's saddled, the better players end up going to the other team because they probably feel they can't get in. Obviously, some guys are going to get in, like Lionel broke through, and you had, the younger guys from St. David's, the Dowans and the UGAs breaking into the team. So, but at that time when I started, it was with the backdrop of not having won for so many years and coming in as quote unquote the underdog and trying to wrestle the cup from St. George's. So in a situation like that, it feels, to me, I think it feels a lot better when you do actually win, because it's been such a long time and you had to be at your best and fight and really make a gallant effort to win the trophy back. So when we did win in '96, it was a very sweet experience to have been through that. And it was the same veteran team, they had all the same guys, and to win it's a great accomplishment, and it makes you feel, proud of yourself and your teammates.
Yeah. Lionel, did you feel any added pressure as to I can't lose this cup to Somerset as a captain?
No, I never ever felt any pressure. You just play the game. The only time you start feeling the pressure as a captain that you lose is when you actually get in that position, and you start to feel it. You're like, oh man, this game is slipping, and I'm gonna lose the trophy, and that's when you actually feel it. You know what I mean? But you don't feel any added pressure, to lose the trophy or to even win it. You just go out there, you give your all. You make sure you pull your team along. You're not by yourself. You lift your team up to the end, and then if you win, you win. If you don't, you don't. But that little last 10 minutes when you're gonna lose the trophy, that really hurts.
As Hasan said earlier, there have been a number of occasions where a veteran of St. George's team is able to bail him out. You've had that opportunity on several occasions to do so. When you know your team's in trouble and you have to settle down, what are you constantly telling yourself through it all to get St. George's out of trouble?
Yeah, so I was growing for this sort of situations. I played so many years, and like Hussey said, we had so many players. Before, like when I came in, I was an opening bowler. I remember opening bowler, my first wicket was Ricky Hill in cup match, and I was betting like 7-8. Well, sometimes I didn't get a hit because we had so many guys in front of me that were world class. But I had opportunity to play a few years, and then I'll get a little hit here and there just for fun, basically. And so I was groomed for that sort of position. And then once all the senior players start retiring and going out, everything fell on my shoulders, as a senior player. So for me, it was quite easy. Like you said, you worked hard at your game, and the time that I was coming along where I was required as a senior player, I was in the national program, and I was probably at the best I could possibly be. So it was easy for me to shift. And, you build yourself for those moments. Anyone can make 100 when your team is 400 without loss. But, when the pressure's on, that's what you want. Every cricketer wants to be under that pressure. So that's how we succeed. So it was easy transition for me. And that's the sort of situations that I grab and look forward to.
Hasan, when you look at how you said it was always somebody bailing St. George's out. When you get into those positions and you're fielding out, how frustrating could that be at times? Because somebody, it's just a matter of time, somebody's going to nail down and have a partner to do so. How frustrating could it be for the team that you feel up at one point in time and then you're deflated about an hour later because you can't get these two out?
Yeah, well, that's cricket, right? That's the way it goes. You have to be. I always felt that you have to be good enough to build the team up. You can't go into the match thinking, like I said earlier, oh, these guys are going to declare. No, you have to set your team up and have players, and the players have to have that belief that I'm good enough to build these guys up. Right, so you have to have that inner belief, and Lionel's a guy that has it. Like he said, and we all know what Lionel's done over the years. So he's a player, and in the national team, we played together in the national team as well. He's a player that has a lot of belief in himself, and that's what you have to do. I was. Thankfully, I didn't play too many cup matches before, in 96, that was my third cup match. So I had two cup matches where, I lost my first cup match up Somerset. Then we drew in St. George's, and then we won the next year. So a lot of the times that I saw players pull St. George's out of the fire, I was watching as a spectator. So thankfully I didn't have to go to that too much. But, those first 2 years, they did have some play. Like I said, we lost my first year in 94. We lost. I remember that, at the end of the day. I remember St. George's, people running on the field and celebrating. That was my first cup match. And, I saw the players. I don't know if Clevey Wade passed. He hit the winning run. I just remember guys coming on and everybody was congratulating Clevie, and as loser, you're kind of just walking off into the shadows. So that kind of it hurts, but it makes you determined that you don't want to have those feelings too often. So at the end of the day, I didn't have to wait too long throughout my career to get a victory. But like I said, it happens in cricket. Especially with a veteran team. Like I said, somebody's going to pull through. And even when we did win, it came down to the last over. So it's not an easy thing, especially when you're playing against a team that has a lot of players that that they have been there before. They know what it takes, and somebody, and they got 2 innings. That's the other thing. You might get them in 1 innings, but the next innings, it's somebody's going to pull through. And then what ended up happening was when Somerset kind of got the cup, and after a few years, then for a few years we were like that. You might have got us early in the first innings, but then the second innings somebody stepped up and did what they had to do. So it all comes in cycles. But yeah, it can be frustrating. It definitely can be frustrating. But you learn that early in cricket that those are the types of things that can happen, especially if you drop a catch or you kind of take your eye off the ball, or as a batsman you lose concentration for that one ball and get out. That could change the whole momentum.
Lionel, what do you like to do first? If all the conditions are right, it's nice being top, it's no expected rain around, do you like to bat first to try to set a target, or do you like to build to try and put them on the back foot as early as possible?
Well, it changed throughout the years, right? So when I was younger, I always wanted to feel first. So much energy, I'm bowling, swing bowler, give me the ball, and let me go. But I tell you what, as I've got older and it's get hotter, Charlie Marshall always used to say, I say, Charlie, why are you getting off the field so soon? You've been out there for 2 hours. He says, don't worry, you'll get older once, youngster, and you'll understand why. Charlie used to want to bet and do nothing else. But yep, the last 8 to 10 years, I understand exactly what he's talking about. Just let me go to bed, get my hit, and call it quits. But yeah, my younger years, I would love to feel out, and my older years, I'll bet if it's wet, whatever, just let us bet.
Hasan, as a leader, what are you looking forward to doing? Trying to get them on the back foot early, or set a target?
We always, because we didn't have the cup, we always wanted to feel first, because you could dictate from behind. So I always felt in the last innings I would rather be betting, so you can set a target. You can say I need 6 runs over, or when it comes down to the last 20 overs, if I need 120 runs, I know how much runs I need over, and you can set yourself a target. I found that if the opposition, especially if you don't have the cup, if the opposition is batting first, they can sit on the bat, base time. It's all part of the game. Both teams do it when it suits them. The batsman could take the time, and then the time would run out. I would rather be batting second so that I can dictate how much runs we need over, and that, to me, that's the better way to win the game, because you always want to win. Even when you got the cup, you still want to try to win. So to me, that was always what I preferred to do, was to field first so that we could dictate at the end. That was the main reason, to dictate the play at the end, knowing how much runs you need. And you could change your batting lineup. You can do a lot of different things. You can send your hitters up top to try and get your runs quick. So I just prefer to do it like that.
Lionel, both of you guys played when the format was a little different years ago in Cup Match. Now we see the 2 hours and 50-minute sessions, and all this has changed. Do you think it's changed for the better, as the game is now, the playing time is now a little longer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're playing a cup match and you're trying to get 2 innings in 2 days, like that is not reality. That isn't supposed to happen when you have quality players. It should always be a draw unless the other team is having a bad 2 days. So to make the game longer, it only enhances the game much more. Cup match is a very long game. Sometimes teams are not patient enough. It helps you to work out different strategies and stuff. You have strategies, you can try 2 or 3 different things. But any sort of game that's 2 innings, that's played over 2 days, you want to try to advance it. I prefer 3 day matches, but that isn't going to work. Having 3 days with the quality of cricket that we have nowadays, you'll find yourself one day wasted. Maybe you can have a 20-20 on that day. But yeah, the rules change. You have to think about it also. Umpires are out there for long periods of times. The breaks, umpires, at the end of the day could be making mistakes and stuff like that. So you have to think about everybody when it comes to the game. But I think it should be longer. It should, and we should look forward to at least nowhere else in the world that you get a 2 innings match in 2 days and get a result.
Hasi, what's your thought process on that?
Yeah, the longer times definitely helps to get a result. I think the first time that they did it was in '96. I'm pretty sure that was the first time that they changed it and made the days longer. And the result came. And like I said, it was in the last over. So you imagine if they didn't make the day longer, it would have been a draw. So I definitely am for having the longer days. But there are other things to take in consideration. Like Lionel said, you have umpires that have to stand up there for that whole time. If they start to get tired. But I think definitely the way that it is now with the longer days, it definitely helps to get a result. And, as the longer you can play, like if you think of a test match, that's 5 days, right? And you still get draws. So the better quality of the player, the longer it's going to take to get that player out. And then, time goes on. So if they could make it, which they did, that was a good rule change, I think, when they did make that change. To make the game longer, you could get more cricket in, and you have a chance to get a result.
If you guys were able to kind of have a word with because you guys have been playing and you still are playing, but you have a word with selectors of Hasan, you Somerset, and Lionel, you St. George's. What advice would you be giving them how you've seen the game change over the last 10, 15 years? Hasi, I'll go with you first.
As far as the selectors are concerned, I think the selectors are probably going to do what they've always done, try and pick the best team possible. But what I would say is that I don't want to be negative, but it just seems like it's less people playing cricket. Right now, when my son would play football out at National Stadium, I would go there and I'll see a lot of young kids playing rugby. When I was coming up, we never played rugby, but you see a lot of these guys that are big, you'll say, like, that guy could probably be a good fast bowler, but he's not playing cricket. He's playing rugby, and a lot of these guys are playing football and not cricket. Like Lionel said, before you played both sports. Like most people played cricket and football. Now it just seems to me like more people are playing football and less people are playing cricket. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like it's less people playing. So it's less people to pick from. So as far as the selectors are concerned, they probably don't have as many players to pick from. But, they're gonna do what they've always done, look at the players that they have available and pick a team that they feel is gonna, either win the cup or retain the cup.
My advice to selectors, not just selectors, clubs as a whole. I think we've actually just lost our clubs and what they stand for. Before when we came up 30 years ago, that's all we done after school. We went to the club, played cricket. Now you don't see that. Like Hasi said, we had 2 or 3 teams back then. even up until 15 years ago, you had a reserve team, and the reserves were just as good as the first team. As soon as you slip up, you lost your place, the reserve got in, you got to play a few weeks in reserves. Now we don't even have enough players to even make up a first team. Nobody's coming training. The enthusiasm has lost away, and the society issues also, but it's bigger than just showing up to play cricket. And then we get too much politics that's involved in clubs. And, I've always said from the beginning that all the best players should be playing cup match. Nothing but the best. But if we keep being political and we keep picking, people that don't really deserve the spots, the ones that do deserve it are going to stop playing the sport. And we see that. People that can't make cup match or make the team for the country, they just stop playing and they go on and do other things. So, cricket is dying. I mean, let's be real. Cricket is dying in Bermuda. And unless we put people in charge to rejuvenate it and streamline it some, we're looking in the next 10 years that we aren't even going to have cricket, competitive cricket, unless it's just people out there having fun. So, yeah, we need to take the politics out of the cricket. We need the clubs to come together and be able to formulate a plan to help save our young people playing cricket, no matter what color they are. But we need to find a way to try to save a dying sport right now.
Hasan, what would you consider your most memorable cup match?
Definitely 96. Then we won after 13 years or whatever. The first innings, I think I took 2 wickets, and the second innings I took 7 wickets. And we won in the last over. I was up next, so I think Doc and Roger Trott was out there batting. I've never been so nervous in my life. I'd sit down, or get up, or walk over there, or walk back. And I was hoping that I didn't have to go out there, because I don't know what I would have done if I had to go out there, because it was so much on the line. Not been in for so long, and you're that close where you could reach out and touch it. I had performed with the ball, but it was, I don't know how many balls were bowled in that over. It might have been like 4, and it was the last over. And then it was an overthrow, and we ended up winning. But that was definitely by far my most memorable cup match.
And Lionel, for you?
They changed. For me, it's changed. When I was younger, we won it my second year playing, and we hit the winning runs. And then as it went on, my first 50 and my first 100, it constantly changes for me. The memories, then becoming captain and winning my first year, that was a good memory. And right up into the many years that, I've helped to save cup match. So at different ages, it's been different memories for me. I really don't have to pinpoint just one-off memory. It's changed throughout the years through my memories.
Hasan, in our previous interview with actually the 2 captains of that 96 and then 97 game, Daxter and Clay, they talked about that 96 game, and then they talked about 97. And Daxter kind of said that, in 97, after you guys had won in 96, kind of took it for granted. Did you feel that in that 97 game?
What was that we took it for granted?
Yes. It appeared that you took it for granted.
I wouldn't say we took it for granted. There was some other issues with the pitch and whatnot, but I'm not going to make any excuses. But I wouldn't say we took it for granted. I just think that it was. Well, let's put it this way: the St. George's bowlers, in my opinion, they utilized the conditions better than our bowlers. Let's say that. I wouldn't say we took it for granted, but I just think that if you look at the way guys were getting out, St. George's had 2 bowlers that if you put a napkin down, they would have hit that napkin 4 times out of 6. And that's what made the difference in that 97 game. We both played on the same wicket, so it's not an excuse. But we didn't utilize the wicket as well as the St. George's bowlers did. And it's credit to them, hey, we both played on the same wicket, so you can't can't complain about that. They had an opportunity to do it, and we had an opportunity to do it. They just did it better than us on that day.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I do want to thank you for your time.
Sorry.
What's that? Lionel, go ahead.
That was an amazing year in 1997 because we had planned it with a groundsman that we wanted a certain wicket in certain areas, and we had Herbie and we had Gary Brinkman bowling night after night in training, hitting their spots. And it was amazing to see it actually pan out in the match. But what we failed to realize was it was one person that played in that game that was magnificent, that was amazing, was Glenn Blakeney. You can never forget those 2 innings that he played. He looked like he was playing on a whole different pitch in 97. He was a jam to watch during that 97. And, you know, he was the difference between us winning and losing because he scored the runs so fast that put us in position to bowl longer at Somerset.
Yeah, we definitely remember those innings.
And one thing, Earl, before we go, on that note, what I will say for Glenn is that he was one of the best competitors that I ever played against in cricket and league cricket, in cup match, sorry, and league cricket. So I would definitely be remiss if I didn't mention that he was one of the most competitive guys. Lionel too. Lionel was one of the most competitive guys that I played against. So, you know, I don't want to spat his head up too much, but, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, the records and what is done stands for themselves. And I just wanted to mention that about Glenn. I'm glad that Lionel brought Glenn's name up because, you know, he was one of the most competitive guys and a third batsman. You know, when he was playing. So I just wanted to mention that, and, you know, rest in peace to the late Glenn Blakeney.
Yes, us.
Well, gentlemen, I do want to thank you very much for your time. I've appreciated this 2007 Cup Match Talk. Wish you all the best in your future endeavors in the sport or whatever you decide to do after. Folks, that's it from the captains. Do enjoy the rest of your night.